Almost 8 million people are displaced, winters are fast approaching, and they will need homes. So let's go to Izza Farrakh from the World Bank. And Izza, one of the things that you have worked on is the curriculum. It's on schools, it's on education. Now the World Bank their estimates are that directly as a consequence of the floods, poverty levels will increase from 2.5% to 4%. That's a considerable amount. How will these people then, already suffering poverty, will keep their children in school, and what should be done? What are the incentives? And how can the international community and the government of Pakistan help?
Thank you, Manize. I think that's a very, very important question, and sometimes we lose sight of long-term impact of disasters such as floods when we focus on, immediate recovery efforts. So just to reinforce what Manize said, a child born in Pakistan today is only 41% as productive as he or she could be. The human capital index for Pakistan is lower than expected for our income levels and is at the bottom of South Asia. Within Pakistan, there are regions that are at the global bottom of human capital. For instance, Balochistan and South Sindh, human capital levels are comparable to Niger. And children in the top districts, such as North Punjab, have double the human capital of children who are born in Balochistan or in rural Sindh. So this is something that we need to keep in mind. And just as we were recovering from COVID, what we are calling a crisis within a crisis, just recovering from COVID and then we are hit by floods, they are anticipated to have both immediate and long-term human impact, ranging from immediate disruption for millions of children and adolescents, estimates say about 2.4 million, and to associated long-term learning losses and human development in the future. And as we know, children who are at the intersection of multiple deprivations, girls with disabilities, come from the economically most vulnerable classes, are going to be disproportionately affected. Even before floods, we are all very conscious of the economic situation of the country, high rates of inflation, political instability. So, floods coming at this time really compounded the economic urgency that we are experiencing in Pakistan right now. And with a few exceptions, we know that calamity-hit districts already lagged in development indicators. Loss of lives, livelihoods, material assets from floods are going to have a transformational impact on affected learning communities. To go to what Manize was saying, just want to also show that when the 2005 and 2010 floods, after that, the first coping strategy of affected families was to pull their children out of school. Education is seen, especially in some parts of the country, as the first liability of human disasters. And what can be done? At this point in time, and Minister Iqbal Saab is a major champion of the out-of-school children agenda. There's depending on your source, anywhere between 18 and 21 million children are out of school right now. As a result of floods, we expect this number to increase disproportionately. What can be done? Immediate recovery needs focus on making sure that children have access to learning facilities. Temporary learning centers are being established. UNICEF has taken a lead on it. International development partners, local civil society organizations are collaborating with the government to set up these temporary learning centers. We just need to make sure that these learning centers provide safe learning spaces for the children and, provide them a kind of outlet as well. Psychosocial well-being needs to be taken care of, any PTSD suffered. And then, return to your actual schools is very important. So, we availed prefab classrooms in past emergencies. I think that's a really easy way to set up schools again. In areas where schools have complete damage, you rent buildings. I was told that in certain parts of South Punjab, schooling, up to 90% of schooling resumed in certain districts, such as Rajanpur and Rahim Yar Khan. That needs to be taken as a model, maybe lesson learning across provinces. And while there needs to be focus on retrofitting, rehabilitating schools, making sure that there's complete focus on getting children back to school, back to learning, there's also some innovative approaches that the government can deploy. Public-private partnerships, for example, availing the functional private schools, giving out-of-school children vouchers until they're available to go back to their own schools. Working with the private sector, giving low-interest loans. A third of Pakistan's children go to low-fee private schools. And, they compete, especially in provinces like Punjab, very closely to the public education sector. So availing that for, to make sure that there's education continuity. Learning losses. There's a term called learning poverty, which basically measures whether a child at age 10 can read and understand a simple text. At Pakistan, before COVID, learning poverty was at 75%. This accounts for children who are schooling deprived and children who are in school and are learning deprived. This is expected to increase by 5 percentage points because of the flood. So it's going to go to 80%. So how do we address learning poverty? Manize spoke about the curriculum. Pakistan probably has the most the most dense curriculum when even compared to developing countries. How can we really focus on what are the essential learning outcomes for children and focus on those when supporting learning recovery? How do we train our teachers to make sure that when children come back to school, they're provided a safe, welcome learning space? And these are very important. How do we make our schools inclusive? The whole concept of building back better. When children come to school, they should find their schools happy, welcoming spaces. This is an opportunity for us to make schools more inclusive, to ensure that, there's room for children who were previously deprived from schooling because of a physical or a mental handicap. Establishing monitoring and tracking systems. This is very, very essential when it comes to floods, right? Making sure that there's transparent, merit-based contracts given out either by the C&W department or by the education department to make sure that you get good value for money, safe construction practices. If infrastructure is being enhanced, to make sure that the foundation is being strengthened. Competitive procurements, these are all very important. And in the long term, right, you really need to think of DRM, disaster risk management, and climate resilience as a core part of district education plans, provincial education plans, a DRM focus in line departments, coordination with your district disaster management authorities. And like I said earlier, really doubling down on the out-of-school agenda that Minister Saab is championing. The non-formal education sector will play a really important role for children who have been out of school for a certain number of months, allowing them access to non-formal education systems that are certified and allow re-entry into the formal education system. A system for, transition of late entrance into school, early childhood education. So our mandatory education starts at age 5. But we all know that early years are the most important in a child's growth. The brain develops at a stage that is unparalleled in later years. It is at these years that you develop the skills, the coping mechanisms that not only form the foundation for later year learning, but also for coping with personal, professional setbacks. And the earlier, the more you invest in early years, they say that, for instance, your pre-primary school teacher is the most important teacher in your life. So just really focusing on the early years as well. Right. So these are some of the,
right.
These are some of the recommendations.
These are very important points to begin with. Thank you very much. And